And we're live over there. And that looks good. Here we go. Hey, folks, you know that sound. It's Broker Talk. It's a live show here. We're talking about real estate. We're dedicated to bringing you the best practices in real estate, both for you professionals out there and for the consumers who are listening. This show is produced by YourStories Realty Group, powered by Castles Unlimited, and Christopher Black Media. I am joined today by my co-host, Jim Lowenstern from Castles Unlimited International. Welcome aboard, Jim.
You get that music.
Oop,
Is that a real song?
and it looks like we lost our guest. I hope he's coming back in. I like
Must have
that.
been the music. I think you scared them off.
No, well,
Seriously, let's talk about the music for a second. I think I'm going to have to pick it for now on.
hey, Jim, I'm all set, and we're good. Here he comes back in. So,
Okay. Okay. I think we lost him again.
yeah,
So,
there we go. And you're back, Stephen.
a little on the side.
Sorry, I
There.
lost you there.
Yeah, just for a second. So Stephen Cohen is the principal and owner of Stephen Cohen Real Estate Team with Keller Williams. He is one of the top producing agents across the country, and certainly one of the top producing agents here in Boston. He has a team of 15 people working in the south end of Boston. That's not South Boston, for those of you not from our area. Welcome aboard, Stephen. So thank you so much for coming and talking to us.
It's great to be here.
Stephen is the type of agent that anybody can call with a serious question. He was one of the first people I spoke to when I joined this industry 11 years ago. He gave of his time, and that's really a hallmark of really good professionals. They answer their phone, they get back to you. Stephen, everybody in real estate comes from one passion or another. For instance, my father was a home delivery milkman. I went into people's houses growing up. I'm just curious, what drove you to be a professional now more than 16 years?
You know, I often feel, and I go through this exercise with my own children as they think about what they might want to do when they're older. And I happen to believe there are cases where we are destined to do one thing, but in a far greater number of cases, there are a range of skill sets and propensities that we want to employ when we consider our field of choice. And usually there's some optionality around it. Or in other words, a number of places where we could fit and thrive. When you land where you land, I often like to say that if you look backward, you can typically connect the dots between something in your childhood and the trail of breadcrumbs that led you to your chosen field in which you are so happy, if that is the case. And if not, then that's when you might want to be introspective and think about if you're doing the right thing. So as I look backward, I back to my childhood, I remember going into the basement of my family home, and I would take cardboard boxes and set them up as sofas and chairs and hang tapestries and make rooms. And I would change the room. Now, you could say that would make me a designer. And you know what? I could have been happy in the field of design. As I became very interested in business, I pursued an MBA, and I liked what you could do with numbers. I liked discounting cash flows. I lived in the South End from the mid 80s, even the early 80s. And I thought the beauty and the majesty of this neighborhood of the South End drew me, the urban planning model. I also studied sociology and thought the relationships among people were very interesting. And so as I sort of now am in my career and ensconced, I look back and I think to myself, okay, and I do believe, by the way, in telling ourselves stories. it's a cognitive dissonance thing of why where we ended up is good, and and good for us. And I like to think of being in real estate as the ultimate confluence of a number of fields in which I do have interest, ranging from urban planning to architecture to design to psychology, to finance to sales. And all of those disciplines are necessary to draw from in order to be a successful real estate agent.
I think that's absolutely true, and I know you studied got your business degree from Yale, and that gives you a sense that a lot of agents don't know how to run their businesses. What kind of business advice, specifically business advice, how would you set it up, and how do you follow through?
Well, first, just to acknowledge to yourself that this industry has positioned us to be salespeople, and there's not a thing wrong with that, but that this is a business. And so that's first of all. And I think we should all be honest with ourselves about the extent to which we want to run our individual practices like businesses. And then secondly, to the extent that running a business as distinguished from, for example, passionately connecting with people, advocating on behalf of clients, understanding property or the multitude of considerations that go into evaluating it, all of which are wonderful things. If running a business per se is not your gift, then complement your skill set, as invariably one will need to do in any case, with skill sets that balance us. Complement, in that case, your skill sets with the skill set of someone who can run a business. And I would say just strengthen yourself, and I would say control for your weaknesses, and then really use your time to accelerate when it comes to your strengths.
Jim, Casas Unlimited has been around for 35, 36 years now. How has your business model changed?
36 a year.
How has your business model changed?
Well, I'll answer that question, but then I got a question for Steven since he's our guest, and I'm not that interesting. And I've already answered this question on the third show last year, but I'm going to just say that the business changes every day. I mean, this is like asking an astronaut who went to the moon 30 years ago how's space travel today. I mean, it's just apples and oranges. So I have a question for Stephen. You have a team. How is your team organized, I guess is the best way. Do you have different people doing different things, or are you the leader and everyone is sort of their own individual and you reap small benefits from each and mentor and manage? Or is it literally like a team? Is it like you got a quarterback and that would be you, and you get it?
So it's more the latter. We are each specialists in a particular function that is differentiated, and it's the coordinated effort that produces the result for our clients. I often like to say that a team will outperform a group, or I should say an individual, but the individual will outperform the group. And a group is just a bunch of people you throw together and then, call it a team. So I think in our industry, and it's so true that things change, what's called for changes, the landscape changes, and your needs as you evolve as a business change. But I think there are three basic types of team in our industry. And one would be the charismatic team, just built around, an individual who essentially wants to run the show and have some admin support. Two would be a convenience team. And this would be two agents who like each other, who have an affinity for one another, which is a great thing. And in the kitchen one night, they say, we'd be a great team. And then there is a business team. And the business team thinks very carefully about who will join it, about what necessary prerequisites there are to joining. For example, integrity, intelligence, and motivation, just to start with, before you even get to fit. And by fit, and I mean talent for a particular function. And then, that's where the magic happens. That's where you get liftoff. And in my view, as I like to say to my team, you're pushed on a very successful team. You're pushed by the aspirations of the people working with you who want room to grow. Your vision needs to be large enough to contain their aspirations. And as I put it to my team, I'm not really joking. I'm actually quite serious that I have two fears or things that guide me that I'm aware of. One is the prospect that my team can't do it without me. And the other is the prospect that they can. And so that calls upon all of us, first of all, cultivate leadership and to be very comfortable with being eclipsed. It's the objective, to be eclipsed in one respect while constantly looking to provide the kind of leadership and vision that makes you in turn indispensable in another.
That's an awesome answer. I'm going to needlepoint that one into a pillow. But the follow-up is how are listings obtained? Are you the only listing agent? If a listing comes in and it was through another member of your team, does it still go under your name? And then when properties sell, does everyone get an equal piece of the pie? These are the questions.
That's a nuts and bolts kind of approach to it.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna get even more granular in a minute.
We have
started yet.
Granular is good. We have three listing agents on our team, two in addition to myself. The listing agents are on a split, which graduates depending upon the amount of business that they do. The support is there not only from me as a fellow listing agent, but also from the administrative staff on our team. For South End listings, I am the listing agent, and we do quite a bit that's not in the South End as well. And I think that as you start out as an individual agent, if you make a list of everything you ever would endeavor to do as an agent, whatever it is you're going to do in that first year, you're going to do it. You're going to take all of those jobs. And this is to your point about how things evolve. Things not only change in the industry and on the landscape, they change with respect to what we have to bring to it, with respect to our own structures. So as one sort of thinks, gee, I'm busy and I'd like to bring on some support, now all of a sudden you're making a list of things that first person is going to do, and you're going to do everything else. And then if that first person is admin, you say to yourself, I'd really like some help on the sales side. Now you have a choice to make. As you bring on that salesperson, the question is whether you want the very best person you can find, or whether you essentially want to run a team where you are going to pull those strings and your salespeople will be the marionettes. I think the Rubicon you cross in building, in my view, a superior team is to bring on people, each one of whom, in your view, has the potential to literally eclipse you and certainly complement you, because ultimately that's how you grow a large team. That's how you feel good about the fact that you have people working for you who are superstars. And frankly, we all do things not well. We all have things we do not excel at. I have plenty of them. One thing I do pretty well, I think, better said about me than about myself, but I think about it a lot, is understanding what each of our team members wants in his or her career and wants this coming year. Those are discussions we have at the end of the year and at the beginning of the year, and in many cases throughout the year. And you would think the answer is money for everybody, and for many people it is. For many people it's money and other things. Personal growth. Many of them want to build investment portfolios. People want certainly recognition. Everybody wants security, but for some people security is far more important. Work environment is important to people. For some people it's even more important. And so in doing so, it's hard to be surprised by anything that happens, because you're always having a sense of whether, again, your world is large enough to contain the aspirations of the people who work.
Did you say it's hard to be surprised?
Yeah, it's hard to be surprised by their sudden departure.
Okay.
Expression of discontent. Oh, there's 100 surprises, of course.
Oh, yeah.
I think one of the things that you've done, Stephen, is you have hired really incredible people. I was looking on your websites earlier today, and I was struck by Louis Gamora, who is your rental agent. I think he is also a musician, and didn't I see him on television at one point?
Yes, Luis is our newest producing member of the team. And rentals, which we run on our team and have 2 full-time rental agents, and we don't particularly do that as a profit center. We do that to, number one, service our clients. Number two, ensure that they're not forming their allegiances elsewhere, frankly. But 3, to incubate talent on our team, on the rental side, to understand with whom we are truly in rapport, because we then promote from within. And the individuals on the team who are listing agents and buyer specialists who are earning very strong livings, our rental agents with that kind of potential look to them as well. And there's mentorship involved. Specific to Luis, we interview and re-interview, and we test with every diagnostic you can imagine that you would have fun with as a party game. Okay, we have so many acronyms that rate us every which way, but in any case, in calling Luis's references and the references that his references can direct us to, and the references to whom they can direct us, where you really get the information, which, by the way, is what the CIA does. Luis had mentioned he was a musician. Well, I had one of his Berkeley professors on the phone who said to me, have you checked out Luis's videos? And I went on, and it is unbelievable. I mean, he's an international pop star, truly. I mean, and in Bolivia, when I saw the Bolivian American Idol and Ricky Martin, giving the vote, you got it, and this kind of thing, and thousands of girls swooning at him. Anyway, his name is Luis Gamara, and if you Google him, there's a lot of interesting stuff there. But, what we look for in our team members, Luis, he's a musician, he's phenomenal, but we have team members who, for example, we have a concert flautist who also worked for Apple. And I love cheating and using Apple's HR department to help vet our people. I ask for and look for signs that someone is angsty, that someone has a burning desire to succeed. And if you want to hire emerging talent, if you hire proven talent, you're going to pay for it. And it's not that you don't want to pay, but the truth is it is easier to grow with someone who's got all of that potential, but perhaps hasn't quite hit the stride. They're younger. And I said to Luis, Luis, what examples are there in your life that show us that, you've got a fire in your belly? And he said, well, when I came to Berkeley, I was told I needed a scholarship in order to stay. And so I TA'd for every professor or a particular professor, and I got a 90% scholarship. Is there anything else? Well, I wasn't really thought that to be a superior runner, but it meant a lot to me. So I would get up very early in the morning and train, and I became one of the top 10 ranked runners in Bolivia. My goodness, anything else? Well, it's through my music. I just wouldn't give up until I felt like I'm always improving myself. And now I've been named by Latin Beat magazine as one of the 30 under 30, which is true. Well, but when I actually, called his Berkeley professor, the Berkeley professor said to me, wait a minute, he's agreeing to work for you? I've been trying to get him to work for me. And, sometimes you just know it. So yeah, it's a joy to have him on board. And, everyone on our team has a story. And I think that's.
I'm going to interrupt you just for 1 second, Stephen. That's a great commercial for Luis. We're going to run a commercial now to help pay the bills. Right, Larry?
Absolutely, Jim. And when we do come back, I want to talk to you about cocooning and your stakeholder reports. We'll be back in just a short, brief period.
When you are searching for a new home, you want to be working with a realtor with years of experience, a professional with intimate knowledge of the communities that you are considering moving to, and someone who really wants to represent you as a buyer in what is probably the largest investment you will ever make in your lifetime. The realtors at Castles Unlimited want to be your choice when you are ready to make your next move. Please visit us at castlesunlimited.com or call us anytime at 800-967-3561. The realtors at Castles Unlimited are here to help your next purchase, lease, or sale of any real estate the easiest decision you've ever made. Start your search anytime, 24/7 at Castles Unlimited.
And we're back. Welcome, everyone. And when we left, we were talking about your stakeholder report, and I read a fascinating article in there about cocooning. Could you give it's a very long article, very in-depth. Could you give a short version of what cocooning is and what's going on in our culture right now?
Sure. That's an article I wrote for the most recent edition of our stakeholder reports, which we put out periodically and are meant to be high-level analytics on our markets, and of course lifestyle pieces and articles that speak to trends going on in real estate. One of which that interests me is cocooning, or in other words, our inclination to hunker down and remain in our homes, spend a greater amount of time in our homes, and COVID, a period of time during which of course we have to do so. And the question that I pose in that piece is whether or not, when we no longer need to spend more time in our homes, will we nevertheless do so out of choice? And the piece continues from there to answer that question.
Well, it answers it, not just that question, but you also go into depth about the technology and how the changes of technology have enabled us to be, well, for instance, everybody's on Zoom all the time. Here we are on Zoom.
Yes. So the precondition for cocooning is the development of technology. The adoption of that technology is really more of a sociological question, and the rate of adoption and the nature and progression of the adoption of those technologies, I analogize in that piece the way I'm conceiving of it. I analogize the adoption of that technology to developments in the natural world, the way we naturally see things happen in nature and in politics. So for example, when we have an earthquake or a volcano erupt, it looks like it happened. It's one of those things that makes the news. There's the volcano. What we know, of course, is that pressure builds beneath the surface for both the earthquake and the volcano, and then suddenly it happens. When we see geopolitical realities realign, great powers fall, which happen in a moment. You know, with the assassination of an archduke, we can have a world war in a matter of minutes, and all of a sudden, the Ottoman Empire falls. You know, when the U.S. goes off the gold standard, all of a sudden, you know, the dollar becomes the reserve currency. You know, when politically actors leave the stage, it seems to be sudden, and indeed, it is slow. And that's also true with all of this technology. Not much of this technology is brand new. And if you are 20-something, it isn't new at all to you. I mean, it's still evolving. But recent studies show that the Gen Z crowd are spending 70% more time in their homes than the boomers to start with.
That's what I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, anecdotes we know, for example, you don't call a 22-year-old on the phone. I mean, you know, we call each other on the phone as boomers. We relate to the phone in this way. When I call my kids on the phone, I'm lucky, and if they answer, and they act like I've, you know, blindsided them. And so we know that's true of our 20-something clients. But by extension, it's true with a range of other technologies. And there are other societal pressures, again, analogizing, that are building beneath the surface that have allowed this to take place, which include the expensive office space, congestion and commuting times, companies interested in their bottom line with respect to paying for that office space, the environment, all of which, with the cataclysm striking, the volcano erupting, you get COVID. And now all of a sudden, the character in that article, actually, I think I used, is the fictitious Aunt Edna, who I mentioned several times, and that, Aunt Edna now is with her Zoom cocktail party. Okay. And so these technologies make their way down. I mean, I call my kids over to help me send an email with a kind of attachment that's strange to me. It's not strange to them. But, suddenly Aunt Edna will be doing that as well.
Let's get off Aunt Edna for just 1 second, Stu. Questions. Going back to your team, this is sort of a follow-up. So if you have a dozen or 15 or 20 agents, how many you have? You said that if a listing comes in for the South End, that's always going to be your listing. Is that written into the contracts? Let's say I work for you, and let's say I own the property, and I want to be the listing agent. How does that work?
Every rule can have flex around it. If you own a property, it could well be that you will be the listing agent.
Or maybe it was my friend's property and he wants me to have the listing.
There can be exceptions. But when back to the example of when you first start your career and you write it down and you do it all and then gradually others do it, the truth is my team is still evolving. There may come a point when, for example, we have a number of South End listing agents that happens to be the role that I haven't let go of because I really enjoy it. I enjoy the South End. I enjoy South End property, which doesn't mean I'm not supporting our agents' efforts in other neighborhoods. But our admin support all of us in those efforts. So we have marketing, we have social media specialist, Anastasia. We have a transaction coordinator, and that's Christina, and a listings manager, and that's Margaret. And this is for the range of logistics that need to be addressed as you market a listing. But there can be some flexibility. And again, there may come a time when we decide to role share on the South End listings. But the proviso is whoever takes on a role has to be as good or better at it than the person currently filling that role. And I have no illusion that there couldn't be somebody who would be that for the South End.
Okay, you answered the question. So how many years have you been in the industry, and how many years have you been with your current brand?
So it's my 37th year in the industry, and I started in 84.
Okay.
And then went to work a few months later. With Keller Williams since 2005. And a couple of partners and I were at other firms, and we were very attracted to the learning-based model of Keller Williams and to the culture. And we founded the franchise in Boston and in Newton Brookline area in 2005.
Okay, so you're the franchisee.
Correct.
For all of Boston?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Stephen, it's so wonderful to have you. We're wrapping up a little bit more, but I just want to reiterate that getting the right people around you is always vitally important. And I think that whole cocooning thing where the Gen Z people are spending 70% of their time in the house, they're not in the yards. And I've seen a change in, people want yards, but kids are never playing in the yards anymore these days. So.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, it's 70% more time, not 70% of their time.
Ah.
So they're still, I would say the majority of their time, maybe not right now during COVID, but anyway, also if people want to check out our publications, they can go to stephencohenteam.com/publications. And the most recent one, the fall 20 issue, has the cocooning article as well as some other COVID related articles. But also all of our publications are there if people want to check them out.
So the Broker Talk audience, what you're hearing here is great information. We have new guests every week who will share a deep dive into the way they're thinking and how they built their successful businesses. I love the South End. The South End, by the way, as you know, was where all of the great craftspeople who built the beautiful homes on Commonwealth Avenue in the Back Bay, that's where they lived. They would walk back to their homes. Those homes are as beautiful. They're just a little bit smaller smaller, and not even necessarily that anymore.
Yeah, fair point.
What's your favorite restaurant in the South End, Stephen?
I like B&G Oyster. I like Mistral quite a bit.
And what's your favorite restaurant that closed due to COVID?
Oh gosh, what's closed that I like?
I like Copa a lot.
Copa's still open.
Yeah,
Copa's very good.
yeah.
They're not necessarily because of
Gaslight closed, right?
I think they're open.
I didn't think it closed, but Jay's in the South End used to be one of our favorite, and that's in a very casual dining. I remember just one quick story. Friends of ours in the 70s, professors living in the South End, just to show you how neighborhoods change and people's thoughts change about them. There were no restaurants. There was Icarus, and there was on Columbus Avenue.
I remember Icarus. It was named the most romantic restaurant in Boston. I went to it right before it closed.
Well, it was it was the second.
Wasn't that romantic?
The first one was on Columbus Avenue, but anyway, they wanted to open a restaurant, and then Icarus opened, and their profound reaction to that was, somebody stole our idea.
Icarus was right behind Masa.
That's right. Yeah.
And
that was its second station, actually. Yeah.
And now he's opened restaurants in Dorchester called Tavola and Ashmont Grill. Both are great. Chris, is it Chris Lyon is his name? Chris something or other. Anyway, we have spent our 30 minutes here. Thank you again so much for joining us, Stephen. It's a real pleasure to have you on Broker Talk.
Yes,
Thanks.
awesome. Thank you, Stephen.
Take care, you guys.
Okay, here we go. Your favorite music.
Oh, yeah.
Oop.
Play it on a loop all day long.
And
It sounds like the